Alrighty, well, we're going to go ahead and get started today. So, thank you guys so much for joining us for our March webinar. Today, we're going to be going over all things food safety. Just want to give a quick overview of what the webinar series is. So, about every month, we're going to have a webinar to go over all the hot topics that are specific to Georgia Girl members, so specific to our members' needs and what will help the agribusinesses in Georgia thrive. And then if you want to suggest our next webinar, I'm going to pop a link in the chat. So if you have any suggestions for what you would like to hear, um, you can follow that link and it will take you to where you can suggest it. While we're doing that, go ahead and open your webinar chat, get familiar the with the way that Zoom works, and just say hey in the chat so we know you're here. And I do just a couple of quick announcements. The recording for this will be shared after the conclusion of the webinar. So we'll have this whole thing recorded so you can go back and watch it. And then anyone that missed it as well can go and watch it again. And then in addition to that, the presentation will be sent out as well. Any questions that you have throughout the webinar, feel free to put those in the chat or in the Q&A box as well. Those on my screen, they're located at the bottom middle. And just to go ahead and get us started for today, our speaker is Amy Hoover. She is the Metro District Manager for our Food Safety Division. And Amy, I'm going to go ahead and hop it on over to you.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on our webinar today. I'll be speaking on some of the various licenses that we offer, just kind of doing a run through of our retail program. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them at the end. But before we get started, we do have a couple of poll questions that we want to ask you. So we're going to have Lizzie pop them on up for y'all. If you can take a quick look and answer those, that'd be fantastic.
All right, fabulous. Looks like we have most of participation here. Amy, can you see the participant results on your end?
I cannot. If you wouldn't mind reading those to me, that'd be fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so it looks like our distribution across the board is pretty even. So we have a few participants we have 40% of our participants in North Georgia, 40% in Central Georgia, and then 20% in South Georgia. And then when asked what areas of licensing people are interested in, most people are interested in retail food and then a couple in manufactured food. And also, we have 60% of our listeners are planning on acquiring a new license within the next year, and then 40% are not.
Fantastic. Thank you all for answering that. That is actually very helpful in me for which areas I should be concentrating on the most. So I appreciate that. All right, so we're going to get on started. And here we go. I represent the retail food program at the GDA here. We have about 20,000 licensed establishments. We do a whole lot. We do retail food sales establishments, cottage foods, we do mobile vehicles, and we keep very, very busy. We're broken up into a North Metro and South District. And at full staffing, we do have, I believe, 41 retail compliance specialists. We're not there right now, but we will get there soon enough. We had a lot of attrition after COVID, but we've been rebuilding our program pretty steadily since then. So for the retail food program, the retail food section is responsible for enforcing state laws, rules, and regulations by conducting sanitation inspections of retail food stores. Regulated firms include grocery stores, convenience stores, bakeries, seafood operations, salvage food operations, mobile meat trucks, and rolling stores to ensure good retail processes are being followed and the wholesomeness of food is maintained. The retail food safety inspectors or compliance specialists conduct random and unannounced inspections of food sales establishments that are licensed by the GDA. We do unannounced inspections of all of our licensed facilities. We pull samples for lab analysis. We keep very, very busy. There's a lot of different things in there that you can read if you'd like to about other things we do, which have nothing to do with licensing, but I will save that one for another day for y'all. Um, so when you decide you want to start a retail food business, you are going to need a license. You will need to be regulated by the GDA, that is in our food code and our law. You would contact the retail district office or check out our website for an application. These are the contacts. These are the best contacts for us. Chris Peasley is our program manager over retail. Colby Brown does plan reviews. So if you're doing a new build, you'll send your plans all to him. And then the three districts are managed by Allison Strickland, Bradley Brown, and myself, Amy Hoover. Strickland has the South District, Bradley Brown has the North District, and I have the Metro District. So for cottage food, I don't think anyone was interested in cottage food on the poll, so I will not spend a whole lot of time on this. Cottage food operators are licensed to sell certain shelf-stable goods from their home kitchens. It is not a regular food sales establishment license. A cottage food facility is not considered an approved source, so they cannot sell these to any stores or anything like that. Um, and then I don't know why this slide is in here. We're going to skip over that one. So cottage food has to be non-potentially hazardous foods. Licensing fees are $100 annually, and all sales of the cottage food must be to the end consumer. A cottage food operator must make their cottage foods in their home domestic kitchen. They have to be non-potentially hazardous, which means non-refrigerated. So this program, they get a license initially, and then after that, they're only inspected if there is a complaint or an illness outbreak. They are not regularly inspected like an approved source for a food sales establishment license. A lot of times, these cottage food facilities will sell at farmers markets or they'll advertise to their friends and neighbors, but they are not allowed to wholesale them and put them in any sort of stores. This is what a cottage food application looks like. We're going to skip over that since I don't think any of y'all were interested in cottage food at this time, but we can always return back to it later if you want more information on it. These are the products that are approved in cottage food. It's going to be mostly breads and cakes that don't need to be refrigerated, candies, jams, jellies, fruit pies, herbs, um, nuts, granolas, even some coffee roasting products. These are not allowed under our cottage food programs. You can't sell any sort of meat or poultry, fish or shellfish, eggs, dairy, any sort of cooked foods, tofu, mushrooms, untreated garlic and oil mixtures. Basically, higher hazard foods that could cause an outbreak, since you're not being inspected on a regular basis, are not allowed under our cottage food program. This is what a cottage food license looks like. It basically looks like any of our other licenses, but it just says cottage food license on top. and then it lists what products you're allowed to make under cottage food. Here are some questions for our cottage food program, frequently asked questions. We went over most of these. You can't produce any potentially hazardous foods. You can't have any meat or shellfish, etc. Um, for cottage food, you still have to comply with zoning and county rules and regulations, city rules and regulations. You cannot use any commercial equipment under cottage food. Everything has to be residential equipment. And you're going to want to check with your local municipalities for any other additional rules they might have in addition to the cottage food license. Um, we're going to skip over these because no one's interested. For labeling for cottage food, though, if you guys are ever at a farmer's market, just know that these products do need to be labeled correctly. It needs to have the name and address of the cottage food establishment. There'll be a statement on there that says it is made in a cottage food facility. It says it's made in a cottage food operation that is not subject to state food safety inspections. So for a food sales license, what does it mean? A residential kitchen cannot be used for the food sales establishment. You will need to have separate living quarters from your primary kitchen. There are cases where you might be able to have a food sales establishment license if you have, a kitchen perhaps in your garage or your basement that has separate access where you don't have to walk through the house. Otherwise, you'll need a brick and mortar establishment for a retail food sales establishment license. Um, Everything needs to be labeled in compliance with FDA and USDA labeling requirements. We have pamphlets on these on our website. The link to the website will be emailed to you in these slides. And you would be able to wholesale a portion of it under a retail license. Less than 50%, you would fall under retail. More than 50%, you'd fall under manufactured foods. Our definition of wholesale is selling to anyone other than yourself. So if you are selling to a restaurant, a grocery store for it to be sold to the end consumer, that is considered wholesale. When you apply for a retail food sales establishment license, you need to submit a plan review. A plan review is going to be your building plan. It needs to show your floor plan, your plumbing plan, your equipment plan and schedule, and a finish plan. You'll have to show your sinks and your plumbing plan, your water heater to show that it's adequate to supply all of your sinks, your equipment plan showing that you have commercial grade equipment in there, and your finish plan. We review these in 7 to 10 days after they're submitted, and then you would submit that along with your other paperwork that you would need. For your food sales establishment license, there are basic requirements that you would generally need, whether you're going to be in your home, at a retail store, or perhaps even in a shared kitchen. You need to have hand washing sinks and stations conveniently located to the processing areas and in the restroom. A restroom must be available for employees to use. You don't necessarily have to open that restroom up to the public. Sewage must be conveyed through an approved public or individual disposal system. Your floors, walls, and ceilings must be smooth and easily cleanable. The facility should be free of pests and their possible points of entry. Water must be from an approved source. Public water systems are sufficient, and the GDA will test private water sources prior to licensing. Hot water supply must be adequate to meet the peak demands of the establishment, and plumbing shall be designed, constructed, and installed according to local codes. Depending on the establishment, a 3-compartment sink would be required to clean and set for cleaning, and a separate mop sink is required to dispose of mop water. Equipment for hot and cold holding shall be sufficient in size capacity to ensure that cold foods are held at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, and hot foods are held at 135 degrees or hotter. Freezers must maintain food in a frozen state, hard to the touch, and counties and municipalities may require grease traps for the facility and should also be consulted prior to licensing. So for the plan review, except as specified, a sink with at least 3 compartments needs to be provided for manually washing your equipment, rinsing and sanitizing equipment. The sink should be large enough so that the largest piece of equipment can be washed in there. Um, we generally say that if you're using like those large sheet pans, half of it has to fit in the sink. Everything else would have to be submersed in the sink for it to be large enough to meet the requirements of your facility. You will also need hand washing sinks in your facilities that are installed to permit the convenient use by all employees in food preparation and warewashing areas. And you'll need mop sink to use for your cleaning areas and to properly dispose of your wastewater. This is the program manager. He is my boss. This is Chris Peasley. If you have any general questions, you can email him or you can check out our website over there. So our next topic we're going to talk about is our manufactured food program. This is going to be for facilities that want a license that allows them to sell their product. More than 50% of their product will sell to other stores, facilities, bakeries, coffee shops, what have you. So for the manufactured food program, the function of this regulatory program is to protect consumers' health by ensuring that food in Georgia is prepared in a clean environment and honestly presented. The manufactured food section, food safety inspectors, known as processing specialists, conduct random unannounced inspections of food manufacturing facilities and warehouses, distribution facilities in the state of Georgia, such as processing plants, wholesale bakeries, bottled water, and drink processors. If your facility is going to be selling a product that has any sort of meat involved, you will need to reach out to the USDA and the GDA meat inspection program prior to licensing. They have specific regulations on meat processing. You generally will need to have your meat inspected by a USDA inspector that's going to put a seal or stamp of inspection on that product. This includes anything from poultry to beef. So when you're ready for licensing, you will contact the GDA to schedule the inspection with the manufactured food program. Prior to that, you'll need to have your license application, your universal business plan, food label requirements sent in, and our S&V document with your proof of citizenship. All of this is available on our website, and the links are clickable on the slides that will be sent to you. So additional manufactured food requirements, they do require finished product testing. The risk category of your product will affect the frequency of your testing. A low risk product will have quarterly testing, a moderate risk product will have monthly testing, and a high risk product will have bi-monthly testing. More information on testing guidance is available and will on the link on the slide as well. A lot of folks will have questions about acidified and low acid foods. Both the retail food sales aspect of it and the manufactured end of our division do regulate acidified and low acid foods. These are going to include things like shelf stable sauces, barbecue sauces, salsa, pickles, pickled vegetables, pickled eggs, hot sauces, canned foods, canned beans, peas, that sort of thing. If you are going to do an acidified and low acid food, whether you're in the retail program or the manufactured program, you will need to go to better processing school and have a processing authority test your food product. Most folks in the state of Georgia go to the UGA Food Science and Technology Better Processing School and use their processing authority. There's a link on the bottom of the slide to that one. Basically, this is going to be a class that you take to learn how to properly bottle and can those things because they are a high risk food due to the risk of botulism in anything that's bottled or canned. So you'll have to take that class, prove competency in that class, and you will submit your recipes to the processing authority while you're taking that class, and they will test them and make sure that your products are safe for public consumption. Chad McCord is over our manufactured food program. If you have any specific questions about manufactured foods, he's the fellow that you will contact. His information is on this slide, which will be sent to you. Okay, so this shows different routes that you can take. I don't think anyone here is doing a nonprofit exemption. That's kind of a rarity. We don't we don't really come across that too much, but it limits what you can sell and make. The next step out is cottage food, where you can sell and make a little bit more, and then is that food sales establishment license. This is just kind of a fun little graph to show you that. Um, so this is a chart that shows you the different ways that you can use certain aspects of your home and what foods can be allowed. So this shows the difference between that cottage food and the food sales license. So like it says for the cottage food, there's just the initial inspection, and the home kitchen is allowed under the cottage food. And only non-potentially hazardous foods. But for that food sales license, you will have inspections at least once every 12 months. A home kitchen is not allowed. However, there can be that exemption if you have a second kitchen in your home that meets certain requirements. Um, and then here's our fun page that says questions, because I'm sure a lot of you have questions. That was a pretty dense overview. So any specific questions can be shared in the chat, and Lizzie will share them with me, and we'll see if we can answer them for you.
Absolutely. All right. So while we're waiting for those to come in, Amy, I have a couple of questions for you. So one thing that caught my eye was the better processing school. I thought that was really interesting. So, what is the cost? Is there a cost that's associated with that, and are you aware of that?
There is a cost that's associated with that. It is run by UGA, so I'm not sure what the specifics on the cost are for that course. But that goes straight to UGA. That doesn't go to the department or anything like that. That link should have some more information on it, because I know that I've been doing this for almost 15 years, and I'm sure it's changed since the last time I checked it. So, so I'm sure it has evolved since then.
Yeah, yeah, because I think that we have a lot of people that are definitely interested in that kind of thing, like canning um and barbecue sauces. We have a lot of people that do that. So what would you say is the most common mistake that people make when they're applying for a license?
I think the most common mistake that people make when they're applying for their license is making sure that they are fully filling out their paperwork before they send it in. If things are left blank, sometimes it takes a while to contact back, whether it's via telephone, email, etc., to get that information, to get it processed in our system. We definitely try to get things done in the most expeditious way as possible. So making sure that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, filling out that application as thoroughly as you can is the best way to expedite any of that. You can also contact any of us at any of those emails that I have listed in this slideshow. We can assist you with filling out that paperwork. But once you submit that paperwork, it just kind of goes into a pile. And if it's not filled out correctly, it can take a while with that back and forth to get you licensed in the quickest way possible.
Okay, no, that's super helpful. Um, while we still have Amy here, if we have any other questions, please pop those in the chat or in our Q&A box. But Amy, what would you say is your favorite kind of area of food safety? Like what is your favorite area of that?
My favorite area of food safety. I think, I don't know if it's my favorite area of food safety, but what I do like best about this job is that we do get to help people develop their dreams, because anybody that's passionate about food and wants to share, what they do and what makes them and their family happy and how they nurture their family with the public. I mean, that's a big dream. And sometimes that's incredibly intimidating. So the fact that I get to help people share something they're so passionate about with other people is the most rewarding part of this job.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. That's so cool. So we do have a question. Um, so it says, I currently have a retail exempt license for meat sales. If I want to produce broth, stock, tallow, what do I need to do?
Are we producing this to sell wholesale, or are we going to be doing that retail?
Let's see if they would say anything. Retail, but could be wholesale.
Okay, you're going to reach out to the GDA, the meat division. They'll let you know if you need to add or change anything to add those products. If you're currently licensed, I don't believe you do, but they're the experts for meat at the GDA. So I would reach out to whoever your inspector is for your meat processing.
All right, so contact the meat division. Amazing. And then also, could you just clarify the difference between the better processing food class and then the serve safe class?
Sure. So the serve safe class is going to be a requirement for any retail food sales establishment. That is a class that is general food safety, food sanitation that you'll need if you're producing anything to be sold to the public, retail. If you're going to be baking, if you're going to be cooking, anything like that, that's going to be sold retail, you'll need that serve safe class. The better processing school is specifically for those low acid and canned foods because of the specific risks involved in those foods. So it's kind of like a serve safe plus. It goes a little further than that serve safe class does.
Okay, that's really helpful. That's a really good question because I think that I'm sure a lot of people were wondering that. All right, we have just a few more minutes if you guys have any further questions while we have Amy here with us. There's a question, will better processing take the place of serve safe?
Better processing, unfortunately, does not take the place of serve safe. You would need both of those certifications.
Fabulous. Okay, awesome. All right, so as we're kind of wrapping up here, I do want to invite everyone to attend our next webinar that we're going to have. So we'll have that at the middle or end of April, and we'll be talking about the Georgia National Fair, opportunities for for vendors to sell their products there, as well as the Sunbelt Ag Expo. Um, in addition, if you have any further webinar suggestions on what you'd like to hear from us next, I'm going to put that link again in the chat. Just put in your next suggestion there. Do want to just reiterate that the webinar recording will be sent out and that the presentation will be sent out as well. Those will be in an email shortly after, either end of day today or early tomorrow. But we just want to thank you all for coming and joining us. And Amy, thank you so much for presenting today and allowing us to hear all of your insight into our food safety program.
Thank you, Lizzie, and good luck everybody with your food endeavors. I can't wait to see your products out in the market.
Awesome. Bye, guys.